Hey guys, excited to talk to you this week about EDAD 830 for our 13th week. This week we focused on systems and then also what felt like more kind of contemporary issues within organizations. So I'll start with chapter 8. So in this, the editor's note I thought was really enjoyable to read about kind of the systems theories. So what we learned in this is that in the 1960s there was a focus of theory and research from open systems perspective that then started to look at interaction and interdependencies among organizations and their environments, and that idea of systems being dynamically intertwined and connected but operate simultaneously was, I think, one of the takeaways as well. How these systems are kind of pieces or parts that are united by interactions to accomplish a specific goal was really highlighted as well. And again, the idea that organizations from this systems theory are multidimensional, and that they're not more kind of single dimensional, which was referred to as more from the classical organization theories. And really looking at the interconnectedness amongst these complex and dynamic and sometimes unknown reasons that when you make a change in one area, that there is sometimes unanticipated change throughout the system. Three things really stood out to me in this area. The idea of the cybernetics, so the process of how organizations can self-correct and receive feedback to correct automatically, I thought was interesting. I also talked about how this theory connects back to what we learned starting with Taylor and the scientific methods that he looked at, and then also how organizations use data about the company to make decisions, the organization. So I saw a lot of application to this one in my work, so might comment on that in our discussion board. I thought the reading by Meyer and Rowan was interesting. I do think it was a little complex to get through, but the propositions were interesting. But what they really talked about was as organizations grow and develop, they become more complex. And with that complexity is the need for structure. And so organizations become more rationalized and rule-bound. And when this happens, sometimes these rules kind of take over and it's hard to be productive in how things are done. And so they talked about the solution being organizations that have a loosely coupled state, which I thought was interesting. In chapter 9, I also really enjoyed this chapter, a doc talking about how organizations really are the idea of a responsible citizen, which is different than we would have seen in earlier theories where, you know, someone was focused just on the organization would have been just focused on the bottom line. So that these companies, right, they live in our spaces and we share people and resources, and so they really have to do the right thing. So they talked about diversity, social responsibility, entrepreneurship, and blending organizations that previously haven't been blended. The one that stood out to me the most was diversity. I really liked that one in regards to diversity improves the work environment, kind of the male dominant kind of overview of how we think of organizations and what's successful within an organization, and the need for awareness about multiculturalism and cultural competence by managers. So I thought that one was really interesting. The last article was focusing on a study that Paul Light did over, interviewing people he identified as social entrepreneurs, and what set these people apart in regards to them, their ideas, their organizations, and their opportunities. And so again, I thought this was kind of interesting, and it sounds like, you know, these are unique people, unlike others, who, again, while they're high achievers, they're a different level of high achiever, and that they're really focused on solving kind of our grand problems, is what we sometimes refer to those. So we're not looking at quick fix solutions, but having endless resources to look at a specific problem in our world and how to tackle that. So again, I thought that one was interesting as well, and look forward to talking more about that this week in the discussion. Thanks so much and have a great week.